Let's start things off with all of the latest buzz across the NFL. We'll start things off with the Oakland Raiders, not Khalil Mack. We will get there. Donald Penn currently practicing at right tackle, which is very, very interesting. So Penn was activated from the PUP list yesterday, then took part in his first practice of training camp, spent that session at right tackle, which obviously is not his usual position. We know his natural position is left tackle. But the Raiders drafted Kolton Miller out of UCLA at number 15 overall. And the latest indications seem, to me at least, that Kolton Miller will be the starting left tackle for the Oakland Raiders in week 1 of the regular season. And this comes after the news of Penn restructuring his contract as well. The Raiders receive a new team-friendly sort of parameter here with this new contract, while Penn gets more guaranteed money. Now, Penn was scheduled to make $6 million in base salary this season, with $3 million of it guaranteed. Now he's getting more guaranteed money after this restructuring, and there was some buzz out there. Maybe Donald Penn was going to get traded from the Oakland Raiders because he was unhappy of the drafting of Kolton Miller. Seems to not be the case. He's obviously remaining with Oakland, but not playing at his usual position of left tackle. So there you go, right tackle for Donald Penn, which I think is the right move if you're the Raiders. Then they don't have to go into the wasteland, if you will, of the right tackle situation there on that depth chart, because it is not exactly, shall we say, uplifting as we stand. So Donald Penn could be playing right tackle for week 1 of the regular season. Let's talk about Carson Wentz here and the health update with him. He may not be ready to go for week 1. There's a lot of confidence out there that he should be ready to start in that Thursday night week 1 opener against the Atlanta Falcons. But perhaps Carson Wentz isn't as confident now. He told NBC Sports Philadelphia the following, quote, "I obviously would love to be out there. That's been my goal all off season ever since the injury. It's going to be close." So cutting it close doesn't exactly inspire confidence if you're an Eagles fan, but what Eagles fans can really relish is the fact that they have a backup quarterback who was Super Bowl 52 MVP. Nick Foles, of course. No, he's dealing with his own injury issues right now, but he should be okay. In fact, he should be playing in the upcoming preseason game for Philadelphia. As for Carson Wentz, you never really know what you're going to get after an ACL injury. Very much up in the air in terms of what kind of player actually comes back. You know, is it the same player as before, different player, whatever the case may be. For Tom Brady, for example, back in 2008 when he tore his ACL against the Kansas City Chiefs, you may recall in 2009 wasn't the greatest season for him, although he was still effective. The Patriots made the playoffs, got trounced by Baltimore Ravens at Gillette, but I digress. He eventually got better. And Carson Wentz, he may not be that MVP type of form as he was back in 2017, but I think eventually he will get back to that form. So, who will be the week 1 starting quarterback for the Eagles? And I ask this question because there's not uncertainty in terms of who will be the starter if both are healthy. There's uncertainty in terms of the health department for Carson Wentz. So I want you guys to predict, type away, W for Wentz, F for Foles. Let me know what you guys think. All right, you are watching The Cam Rogers Show, presented by AutoList. Head on to Autolist.com to browse the largest source of inventory on the web, or download their top-rated mobile app for iPhone or Android today. That's the way to go for a new or used car out there, no doubt about it. All right, some more NFL rumors here. Orlando Scandrick, now unemployed. So in March, Washington signed Scandrick, and here in August, he's without a job. Apparently, he didn't look as good in training camp as some of the young cornerbacks on the roster there for the Washington Redskins. Adonis Alexander, 2017 third-rounder Fabian Moreau as well. Look, Scandrick is 31 years old, fifth-round selection from the Dallas Cowboys back in 2008. Spent most of his career with the Dallas Cowboys, of course. Started 11 games for the boys last season. But 1, he's old. 2, he has an injury history. And 3, if you're Washington, you probably want to err on the side of your youth and your back end there, along with Josh Norman, of course, and not risk Orlando Scandrick, especially when, he's not really giving you much in terms of return on investment. So he's now without a team, although there is interest out there for Scandrick. I believe some reports out there are saying the Kansas City Chiefs are interested in bringing in Orlando, and the Chiefs have their fair share of injury issues in that secondary, particularly at safety, but they also have a need at cornerback as well. So Scandrick may be on another team pretty darn soon. Pretty crazy to think that this guy is still without a team. Jonathan Hankins here. He's set to visit and work out for the Cleveland Browns. Pro Football Focus graded him as the 12th best interior defender last year. Yet here we are, Jonathan Hankins without a team. Played for the Colts last season, and it looks like the Browns may sign this guy. He provides solid depth on that line, considering Trevon Cooley is out for a while with a high ankle sprain. Now, Hankins was cut by the Colts in March, 1 year after he signed a 3-year, $30 million contract with them. I don't know what the deal is with Jonathan here. All I know is he's a good player on the football field. I don't know much about his character, to be honest with you. I'm not going to guess or speculate if he's a bad locker room guy. I wouldn't think he is. Now, of course, Hankins has some Ohio ties as well, played his college days at Ohio State. So for Cleveland, I mean, they are just reeling in all of these free agents and making all of these trades and whatnot. They are trying to totally reshuffle this team. Jarvis Landry, Corey Coleman now gone. Landry, of course, now on the team. Gordon, who knows what the deal is with him. Dez Bryant is visiting tomorrow. Full-on Dez Bryant segment coming later. I know all of you guys are waiting for that. But Jonathan Hankins could be the newest addition for the Cleveland Browns, and he would be a worthwhile one at that. So stay tuned. We'll see if he signs this week. All right, back to the Redskins here. Josh Norman was pretty vocal about the President of the United States and the national anthem debate. Aaron Rodgers, of course, has gone on record to say people should ignore the president's tweets, and Norman echoed that sentiment. So the president has tweeted about the national anthem debate quite a few times, most recently during week 1 of the preseason. Now, Norman said the following of the commander-in-chief. This guy is going to be out of office in 2 years. I think we'll be okay. Trust me, the accounts will be fine. What he means by accounts is, of course, the money that the NFL is bringing in. Goes on to say, I wouldn't put emphasis on it because the fans are going to come. It's not like you've got scabs on the field like in 1987. So, a couple things to unpack here, folks. Norman, number one, is predicting President Trump will no longer be in office in 2020. Another interesting point is that he doesn't worry about the NFL's bottom line, which is an interesting perspective because there are a lot of people out there, analysts, fans, and the like, that think that the NFL is headed in the wrong direction in terms of viewership, in terms of fan interest, while you have sports and leagues like basketball and the NBA on the upward trend. So, interesting point made here by Josh Norman, who, by the way, is a very intelligent guy. So what he says, usually you should take with some digestion here. And whether Trump will be in the office or not in 2020, I think is beside the point, although I will ask you guys about that. The point is, President Trump has influence, especially on the sponsors. So if the leader of the free world tells you to boycott the NFL, I think fans will tune out, sponsors will flee, and players and owners will eventually be without jobs. Now, that is the direst of situations there, but it is a reality if, we continue to go down this path here. Now, will Trump make or break the NFL? Of course not. No single person will. But the more and more the NFL botches this national anthem debate, the more and more the president will continue to chime in on this. And will the president ever stop tweeting about the anthem? Probably not. But there are ways to kind of suppress him. And I think NFL owners are, in a way, trying to do that. They're trying to create policy that would silence the president from tweeting and critiquing the NFL so that the owners' pocketbooks stay fat. They don't get any lighter. By the way, are you agreeing with Josh Norman? Will Trump be the president in 2020? Type A way. 1 for yes, 2 for no. Hit me with those votes. I'm on YouTube Live as well as Facebook Live. Let me know what you guys think. Dustin Wright goes, God, I hope not, 2. We got Jerry saying 2 as well. I'll be sure to give you guys shout-outs throughout the program, so be sure to give me your 2 cents on the national anthem debate, as well as the president, perhaps still being the president in 2020. So far, it looks like 100% no, he will not be the president in 2020. Don't see any ones in the comments section, at least on YouTube Live right now. Hold on, I'll check Facebook Live, and I do see a 1. All right, so there are some voters out there for the president. All right, let's continue along here. Talk about Terrell Pryor, who recently took some shots from head coach Todd Bowles. So he lashed out at Pryor after the wide receiver revealed on Monday he suffered a broken ankle during an offseason workout back in May. So Bowles said the following, quote, I feel he should keep his mouth shut and leave the injuries to me. Okay, so not exactly terms of endearment for a guy who is firmly on the roster bubble, talking about Terrell Pryor here. Now, Pryor originally said it was an insignificant injury. Actually, it wasn't just Pryor, it was the Jets too. Obviously, that was not the case when you break a bone that is not insignificant. Now, Pryor signed with the Jets back in March after what was really a brutal 2017 season with the Washington Redskins. 20 receptions, 240 yards, a touchdown across 9 appearances for this guy. And we're talking about a Jets wide receiver depth chart that isn't the most impressive in the world. Guys like Robbie Anderson, Quincy Enunwa, Jermaine Kearse as well. And Pryor may not even make this roster. So pretty crazy to think about. Now, will he eventually find a team if he is cut by the Jets? Probably. But he's got to figure it out. Number 1, listen to his coaches. And number 2, stay healthy. So we'll see what happens going forward. But Todd Bowles was not a fan of Terrell Pryor going out and talking about that injury back in May. All right, so Tom Brady was recently on WEEI and talking about his relationship with Bill Belichick. Actually called him the best coach in NFL history. Brady went on to say he feels privileged to have been mentored by him to this point. So this is obviously noteworthy in light of the Seth Wickersham ESPN article that came out back in January that pointed to the friction within the Patriots organization, particularly with Alex Guerrero, Brady's trainer. Wickersham added that Brady had grown tired of Belichick's critical ways as well, and additionally reported that Brady and owner Robert Kraft pressured Belichick into trading quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo to the San Francisco 49ers. But all that said, Bill and Brady have won an NFL record 5 Super Bowls together, and the Patriots are clear-cut favorites, I say, in the AFC. I think they win the AFC, to be honest with you, and go to Super Bowl 53. Again, not like we want it to happen. Trust me, I don't, as a Ravens fan. You guys know. But I just think that's the reality. Unless the Baltimore Ravens play the New England Patriots in the playoffs at Gillette Stadium, the Patriots are going to Super Bowl 53. I just think that's the situation that we are headed for. So, will they make the Super Bowl again? I will let you guys vote away. Type Y for yes, type N for no. Let me know what you guys think. You guys know my thoughts on the Brady-Belichick relationship and how I think eventually it will crumble at some point. I think there very much is some credence to this Seth Wickersham article that came out back in January. I've gone on many soliloquies before about this, and what I will say here quickly is that Bill's personality and Brady's personality are very much different. And there is no such thing, I learned this in AP Psych back in high school, as opposites attract. That is a myth. That is not a thing. Birds of a feather rather, flock together. So eventually, the friction between Brady and Belichick will get to this boiling point where, yes, at the same time, they have a common goal, but that may not be enough for them to get along. So for the Patriots, keep that in mind, especially with Robert Kraft and Brady and that relationship there. And I guess in a way, Belichick is that third wheel on the outside looking in. Speaking of Brady, well, he will be playing in tomorrow night's Week 2 preseason game. Now, he sat out the preseason opener due to what the Boston Globe called a sore back. Now, Brady told the WEEI on yesterday, he, quote, absolutely expects to play in tomorrow night's game against the Philadelphia Eagles, a rematch, of course, of Super Bowl 52. Brady is 41, entering his 19th season, and has not missed a regular season game since 2008, back when he tore his ACL against the Kansas City Chiefs. Coming off an MVP season as well, the oldest player to be named the MVP, by the way. The Patriots know what they're getting from Tom Brady. I mean, there's no reason to keep him in more than one series in this preseason game. More or less, it's probably for Tom to get some repetitions with this somewhat new cast of characters at the wide receiver position, especially considering Julian Edelman will not be there those first 4 games. Jordan Matthews is no longer there. Eric Decker is now here. By the way, reports are saying that Eric Decker is dropping everything, which isn't good considering Decker doesn't have elite speed or separation ability. His calling card is his hands and ability to catch in the red zone, catch touchdowns. So, yikes. Eric Decker better figure that out. But Tom Brady will be suiting it up tomorrow night against Philadelphia. Okay, so chalk this up as the most bizarre story of the week. The Miami Dolphins have cut Gabe Wright, defensive tackle. For what reason? Throwing punches at teammates. All right, so look, I understand it's the dog days of summer and tensions boil over, but this is something. So the Miami Herald reported that Wright had blindsided running back Kenyon Drake and then had a dust-up with another running back, throwing punches along the way. By the way, this is a guy who was primarily on the practice squad last year, so it's not like we're talking about an elite player by any means. I'm sure Miami had no problem at all cutting this guy. He appeared in one game in 2017. It was Week 17. Former fourth-round selection from 2015. Now he's unemployed and probably will remain unemployed considering his ability to really not control himself. Lack of ability to control himself. So, yeah. Bizarre. Really weird. Usually you see this stuff too in August. Remember hearing about the fight between the Redskins and the Jets in one of their joint practices as well. That's a little more common, 2 teams going at it, but, you know, teammates and punches being thrown, a little more rare. Still see it sometimes, but here you go. Gabe Wright, now without a team as we stand. So your lesson of the day, if you go into training camp, don't throw punches. It's not good. Devontae Parker, currently a member of Miami, but he better pick it up or else eventually he'll be cut. However, he recently suffered a broken middle finger on Sunday's practice. So Dolphins coach Adam Gase said Parker is, quote, week to week with a hand injury and noted that he couldn't catch a ball right now. All right, so when asked if he would be ready for Week 1, Adam Gase said, quote, I'm not going that far ahead right now. This is supposed to be, by the way, the year of Devontae Parker. This is it. This is his breakout campaign. Everybody's drafting him in fantasy football and all that. Well, I guarantee you his ADP is going to plummet. Meanwhile, Kenny Stills' ADP is going to rise big time. 2015 first-round selection, by the way, was not having a great training camp so far, too. So 57 catches, 670 yards, 1 touchdown last season for Devontae Parker. And with Jarvis Landry gone, you would assume Parker was going to take the reins as the guy for this team. and now he's dealing with an injury. So you would assume if Parker misses an extended period here, Kenny Stills will see a lot of work for Miami. And for you fantasy football players out there, be sure to draft Kenny Stills. I'm very high on him this season, so get that done. And by the way, get this done. Head on to Autolist.com to browse the largest source of car inventory on the web. If you're looking for a new or used car out there, get it done. Or you can download their top-rated mobile app for iPhone or Android today. Autolist is sponsoring the Cam Rogers Show. Let's continue along and talk about Saquon Barkley, who recently tweaked his hamstring during a Monday practice. Head coach Pat Shurmur told reporters Barkley has a, quote, mild strain, and that the team will be smart with how they manage the running back, the number 2 overall selection, might I add. So the Giants should obviously be very careful here with Saquon, who should be in for a good year. Even GM Dave Gettleman has sung Barkley's praises, and Gettleman is usually one of the more reserved GMs out there, saying, quote, I haven't seen a guy like this in a long time, and I've been running around doing this for 30-plus years. So that's pretty good praise there for Saquon Barkley, although it may not matter if the Giants can't block up front. So Will Hernandez, rookie out of UTEP, going to have to really take the reins at guard this year. Nate Solder is now there at left tackle. He's not the best blocker in the world, but he's better than the alternative, I'll tell you that much. The depth chart for the Giants ain't that great. A lot of people like Saquon Barkley to win Rookie of the Year. Who's your pick? Let me know in comments on Facebook Live as well as YouTube Live. Watch out for Bradley Chubb, because I think there's a very real opportunity for him to make some noise, especially because everybody and their mother will be focusing on Von Miller, right? All the double teams will go to him, which means you get that isolation one-on-one opportunities if you're Bradley Chubb coming around the edge and on the other side. And then the sacks happen, the fumbles, fumble recoveries, and all of that. So I think Bradley Chubb will make a very real argument to be Rookie of the Year, at least on that defensive side. So Saquon, of course, could win it on the offensive side, but we shall see what happens. All right, let's talk about poor Paxton Lynch. Oh, this guy. You see, first of all, the Broncos have demoted Lynch. This is not a shock. But I have always been a proponent of the tall, big-armed quarterbacks, mostly because I wish I was one. Standing at 5'9", $150, that's really not a reality for me anymore, but I always like to root for the big arm quarterbacks out there, the Josh Freemans of the world, the Paxton Lynches. Just hasn't really worked out. Mike Glennon as well hasn't worked out. So Chad Kelly is now the quarterback number 2 for Denver. Paxton Lynch is now the quarterback number 3. And this decision comes 2 days after Broncos fans serenaded Lynch with boos during his horrific performance against the Minnesota Vikings. Here's the stat line: 6 of 11, 24 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception, a passer rating of deuces wild, 22.2. So not exactly inspiring if you're GM John Elway or offensive coordinator Bill Musgrave or head coach Vance Joseph. Poor guy. Paxton Lynch, now the QB number 3. Heck, he may not even make the team, guys, if Denver only carries 2 quarterbacks. So keep that in mind. By the way, Chad Kelly, not the greatest quarterback out there either. All right, so this came through yesterday. Ben Roethlisberger suffered a head injury and now is under the concussion protocol. So he reportedly hit lineman Marcus Gilbert, who was trying to block Keon Adams. Now, Roethlisberger was briefly on the ground before eventually getting up. He then spent time talking to a team trainer and general manager Kevin Colbert before leaving the field under his own power. Not expected to suit up for that Week 2 matchup for Pittsburgh, and I don't think he was going to anyway. But this just feeds into the narrative of Ben Roethlisberger and his injury issues. Trivia question. When was the last time Ben Roethlisberger played all 16 games? Could have been last year. I'm trying to remember. But hit me up. I want to know. Because with him it's always health. Whether it's his legs, whether it's his head, whether it's his shoulder, whatever the case may be, this guy is always, always, always hurt. And that's why I still give the Baltimore Ravens a shot to capture the AFC North, because there is no guarantee that Ben Roethlisberger is going to start all 16 games of the regular season. So, comment came in from Yuri. How long is Ben out? Indefinitely as we stand. It doesn't seem too serious. It could be that he'll be good to practice by Friday. Could be that you'll have to wait a couple of weeks. It just depends on his concussion symptoms and whether or not he passes the concussion protocol. So keep that in mind. Hey, I want to give a shout out to Mizzen and Maine. These are comfortable as F shirts, folks. I'm wearing one right now. Sweat wicking technology, no ironing needed, no dry cleaning needed, and I come from a family of moist men. I tend to be a sweaty guy, particularly in these scenarios here when sometimes the studio can be 73 degrees, which is too hot for me. Comfortable.af is the way to go. These are great shirts. Shout out to Mizzen and Maine. All right, somebody asked about Khalil Mack. Here we go. So, the Packers are the betting favorites to land Khalil Mack via a trade. What I will tell you right here, right now, a trade appears to be a long shot. Look, it'd take a lot for the Green Bay Packers to actually convince Oakland to trade this guy. Now, here is why Green Bay is the favorite. They have 2 first-round selections in the 2019 NFL Draft. One of their own and one from the Saints, because the Saints, for some darn reason, traded up to get Marcus Davenport. We'll see if that pans out. By the way, Mack also would be an enormous cap hit for any team he goes to, because no team is going to make a trade for Khalil without getting him to agree to a long-term deal. Obviously, that long-term deal will not be cheap. And the Green Bay Packers have their own contract situation to figure out with Mr. Aaron Rodgers, who eventually will need a contract extension. He's going to become a free agent pretty darn soon. So, a couple of priorities there for Green Bay. 1, they got to monitor the cap space, and 2, they got to figure out Aaron Rodgers and what he wants with his new contract. Put on a bow here, I don't think the Raiders are going to trade Khalil Mack. Whether or not they should is a question that I want you guys answering. Type away. Type 3 for yes, 4 for no. I think I'm hammering the 4 in the comments section because I just don't think it makes much sense if you're the Oakland Raiders, unless you think there is no way in heck that you can get a positive dialogue going with this guy. Because we're talking about a cornerstone player, a premier pass rusher, an elite defender, and you're just going to trade him away for what? I mean, you're talking about an Oakland Raiders franchise that just invested heavily in John Gruden as their head coach. This is not a franchise that is rebuilding. The Oakland Raiders want to win a Super Bowl now. And to do that, you need Khalil Mack. Everybody is typing 4, by the way, it looks like in the comments section, and I agree with you guys. Look, I have said it before. I think the Oakland Raiders can make the Super Bowl, but they will not do so without Khalil Mack. That's just the reality of the situation. So for Oakland, they need to retain this guy and hope that everything pans out on that offensive side as well to make the Super Bowl. Talking about the offensive line, Gabe Jackson, Rodney Hudson, Kelechi Osemele, Donald Penn, Colton Miller as well. Derek Carr needs to get back to 2016 form too. And hopefully Marshawn Lynch still has plenty left in the tank. And by the way, maybe Martavis Bryant can pan out. But apparently John Gruden is not a fan of him right now. So in summary, a trade is a long shot. I don't think it's going to happen. I think the Raiders keep this guy, but we shall see. All right, this injury report came through overnight. Rashaad Penny is going to undergo some surgery on his hand. So he broke his finger recently, and this is going to sideline him for 3 to 4 weeks. So basically, his status for week 1 is very much up in the air. Now, the Seahawks had just 1 rushing touchdown last season. from somebody not named Russell Wilson. So this is pretty much the exact opposite of what Seattle wanted to hear, especially when you drafted this guy, Rashaad Penny, in the first round of the NFL draft, which, by the way, was not the smartest decision in the world. He was listed second on the team's most recent unofficial but unofficial depth chart, ahead of Mike Davis and C.J. Prosise. Well, now there's very much doubt that Rashaad Penny will be good to go for week 1 of the regular season. So out 3 to 4 weeks, we'll see what happens. Fantasy football players out there staying far away. I was probably not going to draft this guy anyway because I have no faith at all in that Seattle offensive line to run block. Do you? So in that regard, I'd rather draft higher up in the rounds to get my running backs and then worry about my wide receivers later. That's usually how I go about it with my draft strategy there. All right, so that's the latest surrounding Rashaad Penny and all of the NFL rumors out there. We'll keep you updated throughout the week, of course.